As soon as we learned we were pregnant with twins, we received a long list of to-dos and don'ts. We were told that our diet needs to change, even if we were healthy eaters before, and that we need to ensure we get the right nutrients for our bodies and for the growing babies inside. Is it really that different for twin pregnancies? Today, we're looking at how using prenatal vitamins might be different for twin pregnancies. This is Twin Talks.
The ultrasound shows your babies to be healthy.
What? Did you say babies? You're huge. Are you having twins?
Are they natural?
Which one do you like better?
Twins, huh? My neighbor's cousin's brother's uncle's a twin.
So can they read each other's minds?
How do you tell them apart?
Twins? You got a 2 for 1.
Do twins run in your family?
Double trouble. You're not having any more, are you?
At least you're not Octomom.
If you're pregnant with twins or you're an experienced twin parent, odds are you've heard it all before. Now it's time to hear from the experts. This is Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2. Welcome to Twin Talks. My name is Christine Stewart Fitzgerald, and I'm your host. So just a little bit about myself. I have a set of identical girls, and they were followed by a singleton girl. So my husband pretty much gave up, and we got a male dog named Shadow, and we have been complete ever since. And today we also have guests with us, and we will introduce them in just a bit. So now, if you haven't already, be sure to visit our website at newmommymedia.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter, which keeps you updated on all the episodes we release. A great way to stay. And another way updated is to hit that subscribe button in your podcast app. And if you're looking for a way to get even more involved with our show, then check out our membership club. It's called Mighty Moms. And that's where we chat more about the topics discussed here on the show. And it's also an easy way to learn about our recordings. So you can join us live. Well, now let's meet today's panel of guests. We have Emily Obsidi, Sunny Galt, as well as our expert, Doreen Block. So as we get started, I'd love for all of you to introduce yourselves to our listeners and share a little bit about your experience with prenatal vitamins. So Doreen, let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Doreen Block, and I'm the founder and CEO of Element, the company revolutionizing prenatal vitamins. I studied nutrition science at Stanford University, and my background prior to founding Element was in data science. So I am definitely a numbers person who is obsessed with health and wellness. And I'm also a mom to an amazing 4-year-old son named Ethan.
All right. Well, thanks, Doreen. I'm excited. We're going to really get into this. I am very curious to see what you have learned and pick your brain.
Yes. Well, 5 years ago when I became pregnant, being a data-driven person, I immediately started to learn as much as I could about what would be a life-changing milestone. And so I knew I needed to start taking a prenatal supplement due to the folic acid. I think that's something that a lot of us may have heard about casually even before pregnancy. But the conversation with my doctor about which product to use left me feeling like there had to be more to the story. My doctor, and I think so many other moms-to-be have experienced this, basically told me it didn't matter which product I used and that they're all the same. But as I looked at the labels, I saw different ingredients, different dosages, different form factors. And so ultimately, as I think so many people have had to do up to date, I had to sort of cobble together my own supplement routine with multiple brands, figure out the optimal timing. And I wondered why there wasn't a better and more personalized solution. So it took me a few years to learn the full story. And after meeting with OBGYNs, maternal fetal medicine specialists, dietitians, manufacturers, et cetera, that led me to creating Element.
Oh, that is great. And let's turn it over to Sunny and Emily. So, Sunny, so what do you know about prenatal vitamins before you started taking them?
What my mom told me, any information my mom gave me about her pregnancies, which, was a good 25 years prior, probably not that up to date. I was really surprised in general with prenatal vitamins, whether it was with my single babies or my twin girls. I did not get instruction on this. And I remember going to appointments. And, you hear a lot about, oh, you're pregnant, take your vitamins, right? But nobody was giving me any guidance. I thought I was just, I don't know, that would be one of the first things because I'm thinking, well, my body is creating multiple people at one time. I'm sure that affects nutrition. I'm sure that affects, supplements and things like that. But they never talked to me about anything. They would run tests a lot. And as long as the tests were okay, then that was it. So not very much information, I would say. I started doing a little bit of research on my own. For me personally, a lot of vitamins kind of make me queasy. So I was looking for stuff. That's why I was asking a lot of questions. I was like, well, what do you recommend? And is that going to make my stomach upset? So I was more focused on that really than what was inside the vitamin, which sounds ridiculous. But I was told I had to take a supplement. We hear all the time, prenatal vitamins, got to take them, but very little guidance, at least for me.
Oh my gosh. You know what? And I can say the same thing as well. It seems like for twin pregnancies, there's, as I said, there's this long list of things to do and don't do. But it just seems like nutrition is really not one of them. And, even just dietary guidelines. I mean, they tell you, oh, well, don't eat blue cheese dressing and don't eat sushi and this. But it's like, well, okay, but what am I supposed to do? And like, oh, yeah, take your prenatal vitamins. But is it different? Is it different? I mean, I found the same thing. It's like, well, just get your folic acid. Well, okay, but what does that look like? I mean, am I supposed to take more folic acid? I mean, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So many
and
questions.
they don't really tell you what it's for too. Like if someone's going to tell me to do something, I want to know why and what does it do? And I felt like I wasn't getting the why behind all this. Just take folic acid. Well, it's good, whatever. You just need to have it when you're pregnant. Well, why?
Right.
So
it's so important. I think it speaks to this shift overall in medicine today where people are much more informed than ever. We have all the information right at our fingertips. And I think the medical establishment is still evolving with that. And nutrition is often an afterthought, even though it really shouldn't be.
And Emily, what did you know about prenatal vitamins before you started taking them?
I had done a little bit of research, but honestly, the most I knew about it was someone that I respected, Line, that spoke about her experience with prenatal vitamins. I kind of followed just her recommendations, and that was that she had a good prenatal vitamin that she liked. Her recommendation was to start it well before you were planning to get pregnant, if that was an option.
Oh, that's great that you had some type of a resource, just in addition to your regular doctor.
Yes,
I know a lot of people don't have that.
And it's great that they recommended to start well before pregnancy. It's so important because it takes time to build up those nutrients in the blood, and in the body. So it's really important for people to start at least 3 months before conception if they can.
So we're gonna take a break, and then when we come back, we're gonna dive into what you've discovered in your process and in your journey. So today we're talking all about prenatal vitamins and considering what we need for a twin pregnancy. So Doreen Block is the founder of Element, a company that's reinventing prenatal supplements by customizing them for each woman's needs. So Doreen, help us understand why prenatal vitamins are so important, and especially for twin pregnancies. I mean, don't we get the right kind of nutrition that we need if we're eating a healthy diet?
Prenatal vitamins are supplements, and they really should be thought of in that way. It's to supplement a healthy diet. So while it's ideal to get all of our vitamins from food, the unfortunate reality is that people's diets today are not perfect by and large, and most people already have nutritional deficiencies even before becoming pregnant. Vitamin D is a very common deficiency, B12 as well. And so it's been shown through many clinical studies at this point that prenatal vitamins are really the key to ensuring that pregnant mamas get everything they need to stay healthy while they are gestating new babies. And so that's why prenatal vitamins are so critical, because this is the most nutritionally demanding time for babies and for mamas.
Wow. That's really an interesting thought, because I think we think of eating healthy and we should get everything that we need, but we really just don't know how much or what we need. I mean, it's hard to measure, right?
It is. It is. And that's why it's just so good for peace of mind, and also for, the real data showing that supplementation is the key to make sure that you're getting everything that you need consistently as well, and that it is adjusted over time also to the stage of pregnancy, because certain stages of pregnancy are more nutritionally demanding in different ways. Now, this is something that traditional prenatal vitamins don't get right, but that's where Element comes in and part of the customization that we do. But prenatal vitamins are absolutely critical to make sure that you're covering all of your baselines, especially during a twin pregnancy.
Wow. So I think you're saying that the nutrient needs are different within, let's say, the first trimester versus the third trimester of pregnancy. Is that right?
Right.
Wow. I've never heard that before.
Yes, it's the folate or folic acid is much more important in the first trimester, but by the third trimester, it's less important. That's because the neural tube has already been developed in the first trimester. Calcium, there is a much stronger requirement in the second and third trimesters when the baby's bone structure and skeletal system is developing. Another one that people often forget to think about early because it does take time to build up in the blood is iron. By the 9th month of pregnancy, blood volume doubles. And so that's why we see a lot of pregnant mamas in the third trimester being iron deficient or anemic. And so it is just yet another one to keep top of mind. But absolutely, there are different requirements throughout the stages of pregnancy depending on what the baby is doing at any given point.
Wow. I've never heard that before, but that totally makes sense that you need different nutrients at different times. So you mentioned folate and calcium and iron. Why are these ingredients, so important? What is it that they do? You mentioned iron. We know that carries oxygen. And what are some of the components what do they do during pregnancy?
Yes. So the most important one that you'll hear doctors talk about a lot is folate or folic acid. For pregnancies with single babies, 400 mcg daily is recommended, but with twin pregnancies, it actually goes up to 1,000 mcg per day recommended. And the rationale for that is prevention of neural tube defects. The second, I would say, group of vitamins that is important to keep top of mind is your B vitamins, especially vitamin B12. The reason that B vitamins are so important is that it helps in the formation of red blood cells and DNA, but how it kind of manifests also is from a symptom level is improving mood and energy. Of course, during pregnancy, it's very common to feel more lethargic or fatigued, but B12 can really help to improve mood and give that energy boosting ability. It's something that many vegans and vegetarians are also deficient in, so something to keep in mind as well if there are different dietary preferences or dietary restrictions. Iron, as we talked about, critical for oxygen and for blood. And in some cases, if twin mamas are deficient in iron, a double dose of iron is recommended. So again, just something to continue monitoring. Two others that I want to mention is DHA and vitamin D. There was a study from China in 2021 that showed that twins are at higher risk of vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D is very important for the immune system as well as for energy storages. So making sure that twin moms are getting sufficient levels of vitamin D is also really, really important.
Wow. This is something I feel like I'm learning so much more in this, 30 minutes than I have throughout my whole entire pregnancy with twins.
We hear that a lot over at Element headquarters. Yes, there is really so much to unlock when it comes to nutrition and supplementation. And that's where, it's been really exciting to almost be an extended part of the care team, because traditional OBGYNs, and they will fully say this, that they're not trained in nutrition or supplementation. So their knowledge is pretty much just at the kind of frontier of, take a prenatal supplement, but beyond that, they don't really have much more insight. And so that's where it's been really great to partner with new mamas and mamas-to-be to really unlock even more learning and understanding about why all of this is so important and just can help people feel so much better and help them have a healthier pregnancy.
No, we really appreciate that. So, considering this is Twin Talks and we're all about twins. So how do the twin pregnancies differ so much from singleton pregnancies in terms of the nutritional needs? You had mentioned that in some of these cases, like with vitamin D, you said the twins are at much greater risk. And for iron, I think that they need a double dose. Mm-hmm. What other cases? Is it an automatic, hey, they just need double of everything, or does it vary with each type of nutrient?
It definitely varies. Absolutely critical to keep in mind that it is not about just doing a double dose of everything. That actually could be dangerous in some cases. For example, with fat-soluble ingredients like vitamin A, you definitely do not want to just double the dose of everything. And I think that's also a common misconception because a lot of twin moms are not getting any kind of guidance when it comes to a prenatal. I'm sure there are many mamas who have just said, oh, well, let me just take double the dose. That is really important not to do. So according to a systematic review that was published in 2021, the researchers noted that more than one fetus can lead to increased metabolic requirements and a faster depletion of maternal macro and micronutrient reserves than in a singleton pregnancy. This is a very important systematic review because unfortunately, there is just not as much data about how nutrition should differ between singletons versus multiples. There are some things, as we've talked about with folate, for example, or B vitamins or DHA, vitamin D, iron, where there is a bit more data, but fundamentally, researchers have to do more to better understand multiples pregnancies and what the nutritional load is. Ultimately, what these researchers found is that more frequent blood testing is really important because you want to get ahead of making sure that mamas who are carrying multiples are not having their iron depleted, or that they're not vitamin D deficient, et cetera. So just having a much more careful eye on the nutrient profile of any given pregnancy with multiples is really important. And also keeping in mind that with ingredients like folate or the B vitamins or vitamin D and iron, that those ones you can go higher in the dosage than with your standard prenatal because of carrying multiples, but that does not mean that you should do a double dose of everything in the prenatal. And that's where the customization becomes really key.
Wow. No, that's really interesting. And now you mentioned doing frequent blood testing, and that's something I was thinking, wow, that makes sense. I know in my pregnancy, I didn't do any form of blood testing or monitoring for nutrition during the, any of the pregnancies. So I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Am I getting enough, vitamin D and iron? Like that would be kind of a hello, but that's certainly not being done. Wow.
And it can be asked for as well. And I think, again, it's something that often isn't top of mind for doctors. They just think, okay, well, if you're feeling fine and everything seems okay on the surface, well, then we don't need to bother testing. But these things can kind of creep up on people where, you might be at a certain vitamin D level where you don't have any symptoms that seem particularly glaring, but then maybe your vitamin D level dips to a deficiency and then those symptoms start to appear. Well, it takes time for vitamin D to build up in the blood, about 30 to 90 days. And so you want to get ahead of it. You want to have that data to say, oh, wow, I'm a little low on my vitamin D levels. Maybe I'm not feeling anything adverse, but let's start to supplement so that, once the babies start to take more of that vitamin D, that the mama isn't suddenly extremely deficient and then feeling those symptoms. By the way, it's worth mentioning that this differs by country as well. We often talk with people in different locations, like in Europe or the Middle East, and they often have much more frequent blood testing that's just part of their standard care routine. But what we hear here in the United States is that it's just not as common and that people really need to advocate for it. And I think especially that is so important in twin pregnancies.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, that's differently. I feel like I here in the US, we don't do the blood testing. At least I'm not aware of it. But I mean, that's great to know that in other areas and regions that that is part of the standard protocol. I'm also thinking just, so in addition to blood testing, what else should twin moms be doing differently in terms of taking prenatal vitamins? I mean, like how would they find out what they should be taking?
Well, besides talking to elements, there are a few other ones that I haven't mentioned. Again, the folate, B vitamins, iron, DHA, vitamin D, those ones are really important. Also calcium in the second trimester. The other thing that I want to mention that we're seeing become more common, but our maternal fetal medicine medical advisors highly recommend also adding baby aspirin into the daily routine. Now, this is not a supplement. It is an OTC medicine, but this is something that Element can include in our daily packets for twin moms or anyone who is at higher risk of preeclampsia. Have you heard about that, taking baby aspirin daily for twin pregnancies?
No, I have not personally heard of that. Maybe this is a very, very new recommendation.
It is newer. Yes. So that's another one to keep in mind and just to talk with your doctor about, because it is increasingly becoming recommended to minimize that preeclampsia risk.
We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll explore more about prenatal vitamins and twin pregnancy and talk to our guests. Well, welcome back to Twin Talks. Before the break, we were talking with Doreen Block of Element about the importance of getting the right nutrition for twin pregnancies. So now let's bring our guests back into the conversation. So I think, okay, Emily, when you started taking prenatal vitamins, did you feel like you had like all the information you needed to take an informed choice prenatal vitamins? I know you said you had a resource, but did you feel, really well equipped?
I felt relatively equipped, but I will say, I'm actually a pediatric nurse practitioner, so I know how to research things, and I found it relatively difficult to find the research and resources. I felt lucky that I was able to find resources, but it did make me think that a lot of people could have a lot of difficulty finding good resources on, the difference between a good vitamin and an average vitamin and like how to take them. So I felt like I actually had the tools I needed, but I was surprised how hard it was to find it.
Absolutely. So Emily, I mean, obviously in your profession, you have access to a wealth of information that the average twin pregnant mama doesn't have.
Yes,
but did you feel like you were able to get the information and the vitamins that you needed?
Yes, I did. And actually, part of that has in fact increased my passion to help others reach that as well. So I love that you're doing this talk because I think it needs to be more accessible to everyone, the ability at least to make a more informed decision, especially because at my prenatal appointments, I was surprised how uneducated in some ways my OBGYN was. Some of the things that she recommended, I was like, actually, I think there's more updated research than that. I felt like there, unfortunately, I know as a practicing profession, you kind of get into the grit and you're taking care of patients and updating things as it comes up, but it's usually with bigger issues and you don't always go back and get the updates on things like vitamins. And so your providers aren't always completely up to date on things like vitamins because they're focused on other bigger issues, in their eyes, bigger issues, but it's really important.
It is really important. I have to say, for me, I did not feel prepared at all. But I also wasn't under the impression that it was that big of a deal, right? With my twin pregnancy and my perinatalogist, I figured that would be something that was brought up in conversation. And if it was really important, that they would have put more emphasis on it. So I also really wasn't too stressed out about it. I just kind of thought, I guess I'm going to get the nutrients and everything I need in whatever I am eating, right? That I don't need to take anything else. So did I feel prepared? No, but I also didn't think it was that big of a deal. Now, there was a situation when I was like 32 weeks pregnant where I had a little bit of a scare where I went into the hospital because I felt like I was having some pretty intense, Braxton Hicks or something like that, but I knew it was way too early to deliver the babies. Turns out that I just needed to hydrate more. So that was a little bit of a scare for me. And that did make me think more about nutrition. It made me think more about prenatals and the nutrients that my body was getting. And I started to do more research. But then sometimes when you go digging in this, you'll find one article that says one thing and another article that says another thing. And it can become very confusing for someone who is, just trying to find the information, someone who's not an expert.
Wow.
Yes, I kind of joke that you shouldn't need a PhD in prenatals to pick a prenatal, but it really feels like that today. There's just so many almost like conflicting resources, and it's very hard to understand what each given person should be taking.
Right. And if your medical provider or your perinatologist isn't giving you that information, then what are you supposed to do?
It's almost like, okay, we're concerned about, the big things about, gestational diabetes. We're, concerned about low amniotic fluid. We're concerned about, things that are specific to multiple pregnancies, but, and vitamins and nutrition are just the afterthought. And so, the time isn't really spent in terms of, getting that information and providing that to us, the patient. So, I mean, I could say, Doreen, I'm thankful that we do have other resources, and you're here. And I mean, this is news for me to really learn about how the nutritional aspect can be so different especially for twins. So most of the time they say, okay, take your vitamins in the morning. Is that a good practice? We want to simplify things, and many moms are looking for, like 1 a day vitamins to simplify the process. But I think you might be encouraging some to take vitamins in the morning and evening. So what benefit does that provide?
Yes, this is really not talked about enough, and it's absolutely critical. Basically, vitamins are absorbed differently in the body depending on which vitamins they are. So some vitamins like A, E, D, vitamin K, they are fat soluble. So they are better absorbed with fats. Other vitamins like B and vitamin C are water soluble. So they're better absorbed on an empty stomach just with a glass of water. There are even some ingredients within prenatals that cancel each other out. For example, iron and calcium should not be taken at the same time. And so with Element, we've designed the first ever dual packet, twice daily packet, which makes it very simple to take all of the guesswork out of which ingredients you should be taking at any given time. So the first side of this packet is the capsules that you need to take in the morning with just water. And then the second side are your PM or afternoon, evening vitamins, which you're going to take with food. So this is something that is often overlooked. As you said, there's often this kind of drive towards simplicity, but what is kind of just for the simplicity purpose, or almost simplifying things for manufacturers because they just want to put as many ingredients as possible into a few capsules for you to take, is actually not fully optimal for what your body needs. And so we have really put together this very unique way to give you everything you need at just the right time. And it's something that we see really benefit all of the people who are taking Element because they're able to really get the full dosage with things not canceling each other out and being absorbed most optimally.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, I've never, again, I feel like I'm learning so much. I've never heard about the difference in vitamins, sort of the elements different, canceling each other out, and whether they should be taken if they're fat soluble or water soluble. So, I was looking at the ingredients, and this is 100% of your nutritional needs. Okay, done. Right?
Yeah.
Take it. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
And
that doesn't mean that you're absorbing all of that, though. So it's such a good point.
Yeah. Okay, you've talked about customizing prenatal vitamins. And I guess, what does that really mean?
Each body is different and each pregnancy is different. And so your prenatal should be too, ideally. And I think this speaks to, and I've sort of alluded to this, that a lot of times the products that we're using in our daily lives, and this is the same way for prenatal supplements, it's often designed for simplicity or for manufacturing purposes to be as easy and cost effective as possible, but not necessarily fully optimal for each person. And so this is where I think you see a lot of times within the prenatal supplement space, pregnant mamas having to change their prenatal multiple times over the course of pregnancy. As Sunny mentioned, there are a lot of people who have who feel very sensitive to prenatals, and that might be because certain dosages are too high. For example, if iron is higher than what you need at a given time, that can often contribute to feelings of nausea or or just general upset stomach. So these are the types of things that if you can define a new manufacturing process to create kind of really what is the holy grail in this space of creating a customized or personalized prenatal, that's really what would be ideal for each person. And so we think of customization in two ways. The first is customizing by stage of pregnancy. So for example, folate is much more important in the first trimester than it is in the third. Calcium is very important in the second trimester. Iron is very important in the third trimester because blood volume doubles by the 9th month. But also looking at the individual, their health history, any known nutritional deficiencies, dietary patterns. So if they're vegan or gluten-free, any allergies that they might have. And then we have a process where every 30 days we're asking about different health experiences. So if people tell us on their 30-day form that they've been struggling with restless leg syndrome or brittle nails or high blood pressure, whatever it might be, we can adjust the prenatal dosages in order to help support them. And, I want to caveat that a vitamin is not going to solve every issue. For example, gestational diabetes is very top of mind for people in the second trimester. There isn't a vitamin that will just cure gestational diabetes or minimize the risk, but there are certainly vitamins and nutrients that can help with certain symptoms or certain experiences. For example, with restless leg syndrome, increasing calcium and magnesium, we often find that people respond very well to that within 10 to 14 days. It helps them with something that a doctor might just say, well, it'll be done by the time you finish your pregnancy. That's not good enough for us. We want to be able to help people if we can by customizing the prenatal experience.
Oh, that's so great. As you're talking there, and I think about the idea of having, a team member who's actually listening and concerned about some of these maybe minor things. When you're talking about brittle nails,
Yes.
like just that in of itself, and saying, hey, oh, you know what? Let's customize it. Let's adapt and your current intake. And that's important to us. That's what a great resource. Because I think, my experience is just, again, kind of the providers are often just saying, okay, well, you don't have gestational diabetes. Great. Okay. Next subject. And, the little complaints like, oh, I'm tired, or I have, edema, or I'm just, I'm feeling sluggish, or I think, you'd mentioned earlier, like vitamin B12, it has, mood and energy. And, that would be great to be able to say, hey, yeah, I've been feeling tired, and wow, there's actually somebody who cares about that and can do something about it.
Right. And getting ahead of it as well, because I think, given the frequency of care appointments for prenatal, oftentimes we're very time strapped and the provider is very time strapped. And so you're right that the focus, of course, is on the more kind of quote unquote important items. Doctors, OBGYNs, they're often not trained in nutrition. I think most OBGYNs would fully admit that they don't have all of the necessary training, or they don't stay up to date on things related to nutrition and supplementation. And so that's where it's been really exciting to see how we can support at Element as kind of an extended part of the care team, where it is through this lens of nutrition and supplementation and really supporting both the pregnant mama and their doctors with how can we help in our little way, just to make each person feel as optimal as they can throughout their pregnancy experience.
Oh, that's so great. Now I'm curious, Emily, so, kind of drawing from both your personal and your professional experience, I'm curious, what do you think about, the idea of having customized vitamins for twin mama pregnancies?
I love the idea. I would have been all over that if I had known about it. Personally, I felt torn at times about the whole absorption thing, because I was aware of the absorbing different vitamins differently, and different foods help different vitamins absorb or make it worse, and feeling torn. So feeling confident that I was absorbing better or more optimized by having some on empty stomach and stuff with food would have been confidence boosting. And also just that confidence that, perhaps if I'm struggling with how it makes me feel, I could have someone actually try to problem solve that. The healthcare providers, unfortunately, not going to be able to help them very much most of the time in kind of brainstorming what might help them tolerate the vitamin better.
Yeah, I'm hoping that all the twin mamas today are being able to take this in and, think about, just being really proactive. I mean, we all know we're ultimately our own advocate throughout our own twin pregnancy. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to have a much more positive experience, feeling really healthy and having a, healthier outcome for their babies as well.
Totally agree.
So I just want to say, well, thank you so much, our guests who joined us for this episode today. And be sure to check out newmommymedia.com, where we have all of our podcast episodes, plus videos and more. And that wraps up our show for today. So thanks for listening. If you like Twin Talks as much as we do, please consider checking out the amazing businesses that sponsor our show week after week. And we'd also love for you to tell other twin parents about this resource, which of course is absolutely free. And if you want to check out some of the other podcasts we produce, such as Newbies, Parent Savers, The Boob Group, and Preggy Pals, then visit our website at newmommymedia.com. Thanks for listening to Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
Hey, mamas. Don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording, so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.